Hi, Karen with you today. Thank you so much for joining me. I have a scrapbook layout for Scrap the Boys, and this month is all about mixed media. I love putting this layout together, and I am looking forward to showing it to you today. I'm using the Colour Study collection from Vicky Booten as well, and I've decided that I'm going to use a bit of a wedge type view on the page. I also bring in a cut file as well, which I'll talk about a little bit later. So what I'm doing right now is I'm just putting some pencil lines around the page, just roughly, just to give myself a bit of a guide as to where those wedges are going to land on the page. In terms of techniques from a mixed media point of view, I'm not using anything particularly technical for this one this month. I am really just wanting a colour wash around the page, but I want colour blocking underneath the wedges. I'm not using the colour blocking in terms of tone on tone. I'm just literally using it to give me a bit of an idea of where those wedges are going to sit. So the colours that I'm using today are shimmers from Shimmers Paints, and I have to be honest, I didn't write down the colours that I'd used, and I'd used them after another layout, and I've put them back in my box. So I'm pretty sure I know the colours, and hopefully they're right. That first colour that I put down was Well Blue Me Down, which is a lovely green tealy colour. Then I put down, I definitely know what this one is. This is Jenny B Blue, that second one there. And the third colour that I'm putting down is a mixture of Snowway Man and a little bit of Rip Van Winkle. Now, I didn't use a lot of the Rip Van Winkle because it is a little bit of a purpley tone and I didn't want it to look purple. So I did back that off a little bit, but I did want to make it a little bit darker, so I did mix those two colours together. I have pre-gessoed my white cardstock. It is just plain textured white cardstock that I'm using today, so nothing special. Because I knew I wasn't going to be using a huge amount of liquid, but I did still use the gesso because I did want it to be able to move around the page and give more of that watercolour look as well. And it means if I make a mistake, I can lift it up with a wet one or with some paper towel as well. So that final green colour there is a hint of mint, and I made it a little bit darker by adding in some of the Oh Say Can You See as well, which gave it just a little bit of a darker green tone because the mint spray is a little bit pale. So I'm just going around the page in the colour blocking there, and I'm using the packaging technique. So I just sprayed my ink sprays onto the packaging and then just smooshed it on the page with my fingers. I didn't really mind where it went, as long as I kept going in that circular motion around the page, and I wanted to keep a little bit of areas where there was defined where the colours actually were. So one of the good things about the gesso as well when you use gesso is you can mop things up, which is what I just did there with the paper towel. I'm also going back in with some splatters, and I'm using exactly the same colours that I actually put down in that area already. So that is tone on tone when it comes to the sprays. And the water and the sprays still were a little bit wet. So this also gives the impression of more being a watercolour as well. I really love how that turned out. My photo today that I'm using is a photo of my boy. He's about 15 or 16, I think, in this photo. Can't really remember. I'd have to look back. And I really wanted to give him that tone of that dark black and white photo as well. So I do come in here in a moment with some black splatters. Now, to create black splatters, I pretty much always use black gesso for this. And the main reason for that is the gesso sort of sits on top of the page instead of actually mushing in. Mushing, that's not really a word, but I add a little bit of water and just spray that around the page. So I really like how gesso, because obviously then it stays black. I often find if I use a black spray, it tends to go a little bit grey on a page, particularly when it goes across another colour. So I really wanted black to be the focus on that page. And I've used my fan brush for these splatters because I wanted them, as much as I'm using black, I still wanted them to be as subtle as I could make them. They're still obviously quite splattered across the page, but I really like how that turned out. So while they were drying, the splatters were drying, I have distressed the edges of my paper wedges. Whenever I look at those wedges, I think it reminds me of Trivial Pursuit. I don't know why. Well, I guess I do know why. But yeah, every time I look at that paper, it just reminded me of Trivial Pursuit and collecting wedges or pieces of pie that you used to talk about when you would play Trivial Pursuit way back when. It's a long time since I've played Trivial Pursuit. So in terms of my cut file today, I have off camera, I did back that with the Vicky Booten paper as well. And I've gone for a really dramatic look there in terms of the title. I have kept that to being very much the black tones of her patterned paper. And then I've used some of the lighter greeny, yellowy tones for the puzzle pieces that will come in a moment. I am just backing my photo there with a piece of paper from the smaller paper pad. And I've used the grid style paper there. I didn't want to do any major colours behind the photo, but I did want to give some dimension just to give a bit of a break between the photo and the actual patterned paper and mixed media. So this is pretty much the look that I went for. So I wanted the wedges to go around sort of that 3/4 of the page. I have lifted these up, as you can see, on some craft foam, which I just get from my local Spotlight store in Australia. It's very, very cheap. So I have a whole bundle of that. And I really wanted to have some dimension on this page. So that's one of the reasons I also distressed the edges, just to give a little bit of interest around the patterned paper, and then also to lift it up. Also with these wedges, I decided to offset them against each other so they're not a complete match up to each other. So they're not making a full circle, if you know what I mean. I wanted to that. I think that just gave a little bit of interest to the page as well by offsetting them against each other. So the file I'm using today, I can't remember if I said, is from Cut to You. It is one of the relatively recent cut files, and as soon as I saw the photo in my stack, I knew exactly which one I was going to use for this layout, and I love how this turned out. It was easy to back, really simple. I did the basic stock standard cutting of this back file, of the cut file. I have stuck it down with some glue and just cut around it with my fussy cutting scissors. And it has the perfect spot to sit that photo in. That's one of the great things about using cut files. It gives me... most of the time it will give you exactly where you need to put your photo or where you want to put your design. It does all the design for you. I also, because this was quite dramatic in terms of the black and the wedges and the watercolor, I decided I didn't really want to do a lot in terms of ephemera, which actually worked out quite well because I actually don't have a lot of ephemera left of this color study collection that were the right colors. So I decided to use that camera. That's a fantastic camera, and it's very big, so I felt it lent itself quite well on that left hand side. And then I do try out a few things across the page, and I do decide on using that budgerigar. There is no reason to use a budgerigar on this layout. It has absolutely no meaning at all, but it's just cute. I loved it. So he gets a little perch there amongst the S at the bottom of the cut file title. That moth does come into play, and I do stick down that moth as well. So I'm just searching to see whether there's anything else I can actually use on the page, but I pretty much settle just to add on that moth. I do spend a bit of time moving things around, but it all comes together. I then decided it needed a border just to give the page some grounding because there was so much going on. I thought it lent itself well to having a border on the page. So I gutted one of the colour study pattern papers as well and just removed just a few millimeters, really, not a great deal amount of off the cardstock. And then I have heavily distressed it. I used my distressing tool, and then I also distressed it with my fingers as well. I find sometimes using my fingers is way better. It gives me I can tear it a little bit more and things like that. So that's what I did with the border. So in terms of Scrap the Boys this month, we would love it if you joined in. I will leave a link to the blog post, and you can see all the other amazing examples and of the design team this month. You will be blown away. They are absolutely fantastic. And I love being a part of this team. It is so much fun. So to finish off this layout, I also just added a few more black splatters just around the page, just to make sure that there was enough color around the page. And then I also do come in with some thread. So instead of finding any more embellishments, I thought, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to do what Missy Whidden does. And I'm going to add in some thread. So I grab out my thread box and I put in some blue and some green thread just across the center of the page. And I also found that I had some of those puffy stickers as well, which I just put a few hearts around the page. And that pretty much finishes the layout. I want to thank you so much for joining me. I hope you join in on this month's challenge, and entries just need to be put into the Facebook Scrap the Boys page, and we would love it if you entered this month. We love seeing everyone's entries every month. I want to say again, as I always do, and I gush, I know, but I thank you so much for watching me today. I really do appreciate it. All the encouragement that I get, and the subscribers and the likes and the comments. I just love it so much. It makes me still want to do this. I've been doing this for a few months now, and I am really still enjoying it and loving sharing what I'm creating at the moment. So I have got some close-ups to show, and again, thank you so much, and I will see you next time. Bye for now.